There was actually nothing new in this last lesson of the unit. We're just combining two things that you know, or more than two things that you know. Your understanding of fraction and negative exponents and your exponent laws. And I know really you should be familiar with those three for sure. Okay. So when we multiply two powers, we add the exponents. When we divide two powers, we subtract the exponents. When we raise one power to another power, we multiply the exponents. This is what we've been doing since last year. Except now, we could see fractions for exponents and negative numbers. One thing you're always going to have to be sure of, whenever you start simplifying these things, your final answer cannot have any negative exponents. Should that, oh, that didn't. I think I got to do it this way. Oh. Oh. No. There. Fine. Okay. Many of these questions will look familiar to you. It's just that some of the answers now in these specific ones are going to be negative exponents. Let's do them. What's x to the negative third times x to the sixth? What do I do with the exponents? Add them. So it's going to be x to the negative 3 plus 6. Plus 3. Are there any negative exponents here? Huh. That. Next one. This is the same as y to the negative 2, or 3 minus 5, which gives us negative 2. That is a negative exponent. How do I write this using a positive exponent? So 1 over y to the positive second, or you could write it like this, 1 over y squared. Either one of those is fine. Okay. What about C? Really? When I multiply two powers, what do I do with the exponents? Add them. So it's going to be 7 to the negative 3 plus negative 4. 7 to the negative 7, which can't be left as it is. 1 over 7. Okay. 4, since 1 over 1 to the 7th is just 1, both of those are equivalent. Either one is correct. Okay. Watch out for this next one. Somebody want to give me an answer? What happens to the base? Stays the same. And then we subtract the exponents. And they'll give you the final answer, yeah. So how many say -2? Don't be shy. How many say 6? How many say 4? That's so, oh, that's so funny. Isn't this to subtract -4? Don't we have to subtract? So it's 2 minus -4, which becomes 2 plus 4, which is in fact 6. Watch out for that one. Whenever you subtract a negative, that becomes positive. So be careful with that one. How about this next one? What do I do with the exponents? Multiply, so it's going to be 3 times -2, which gives me x to the -6. Can't leave it like that. So 1 over x in parentheses to the +6, or 1 over x to the 6th. Don't let this next one throw you. It looks a little complicated, but don't let it throw you. What happens to the base? It stays the same, so it's still 2/5 in parentheses. What do I do with the exponents? So -3 times 2 gives me 2 over 5 in parentheses to the -6. Can't leave it like that. 5 over 2 to the +6. And remember, you're not asked to evaluate these. You were just asked to simplify them. This would be way too big of a number. That'd be huge. Okay? Okay. Next one. It's y to the -4 times -3, which is y to the 12th, which is already a positive exponent, so I'm done. Next one. When I multiply the powers of x, what do I get? -1. When I multiply the powers of y, what do I get? And those are being multiplied together. So I have to change both of these, right? So both of these become 1 over x to the first times 1 over y squared, or 1 over x to the first is just 1 over x times 1 over y squared, which I can actually combine into a single fraction, 1 over xy squared. Can you see a bit of a pattern to get from this to this? Like what might be a quick way to, instead of having to do all this? But then you gotta also do something else with them. Like, isn't this really the same as over 1? So aren't I taking these two and moving them down to make them positive? And what's left when I move these down? Not 0, 1. Because remember, when we take the reciprocal, it's always 1 over. So I want to actually, before I do this one, I want to jump to this one. Because I want to show you how we don't have to do all these steps. So what would you get, remember, if the variables are by themselves, there's an exponent of 1, or if there's no exponent. Remind yourself of that. So what do I get when I multiply the coefficients in front, the numbers in front? 21. What do I get when I multiply the powers of x? X to the negative 3. I just explained that. Don't worry, I'm going back to that. Promise. X to the first, or sorry, y times y. Right. Now, here's what I would do. Instead of, because then it can get very complicated if you start writing it like this. This is the power with the negative exponent, right? That moves down and becomes positive. Everything else stays exactly where it is. So a quicker way to do this is just simply to go again and make a fraction. The 21 doesn't have a negative exponent. Because remember, the negative exponent is attached to x, not 21. The y squared stays where it is, but this moves down, and as it moves, it becomes positive. So that's a little quicker. Saves you a lot of steps. Let's look at this one now. Let's go back up to this one. 5 a cubed b to the 5th, because it's 3 subtract negative 2. Any negative exponents? Oh, I'm done. Don't have to worry about changing anything there. Careful with your first step. I've got to square everything inside. Everything. 9. 3 squared is 9. Times x to the negative 5th squared. X to the negative 10. Times y to the 4th squared. Y to the 8th. Now, make any negative exponents positive. Well, like I said, here's the power with the negative exponent. That moves down, becomes positive. Everything else stays exactly where it is. So your final answer is going to be 9 y to the 8th over x to the positive 10. Don't forget to change that sign when you move it. Okay. The last one. What do we want to do first? Yeah, this is kind of interesting. What do we want to do first? So you want to change it to positive first? What would it look like? Okay. So I've got positive exponents. And what is this the same as? Why? Why? What happened to your fraction? What's y squared? Y squared over x squared. X squared. So you could have done it like that. You could have done it like this. You could have done x to the negative 2 over y to the negative 2. And then how do we change the exponents? Well, this has to move down and become positive, right? Wouldn't it make sense to make this positive, move it up? So we just reverse these and it becomes y squared over x squared, which we see as the same answer. It has to be. Okay. So I want to stop there because I want to give you some practice with that. Okay. I know there's not much left, but these ones involve multiple steps. We'll get into that once you're comfortable with the more straightforward ones.